Welcome back to PC Builder, I'm Jason. This is our best gaming laptop 2025 buying guide. We're going to cover everything that you need to know to buy the best gaming laptop in 2025, from gaming performance to portability to overall features. And we'll list our specific picks for the best gaming laptops in 2025 at every budget level. If you get value out of this video, please give it a like. Let's jump into it. The most important thing when buying a gaming laptop in 2025, it's the graphics card, also called the GPU. For the best gaming performance, you want a gaming laptop with a dedicated graphics card, not just integrated graphics. In 2025, NVIDIA GPUs dominate gaming laptops in everything except the budget category. The most available gaming laptop graphics cards in 2025 are the RTX 50 series, but at the time of filming, you can still find some RTX 40 series laptops, but they are selling out quickly. There are three critical parts to getting the right gaming laptop GPU: the overall performance, the amount of video RAM on the GPU called VRAM, and the GPU's total graphics power, also called the TGP or maximum graphics power. Remember that the laptop and desktop versions with the same name, like the RTX 5070, are totally different models, and the laptop version is never going to be anywhere near as fast as the desktop version due to power and cooling differences. For VRAM, most gaming laptops in the budget and even the mid-range still come with 8 GB of VRAM, which isn't much for modern 1080p and 1440p gaming. While that amount will be enough for esports titles like CS2, Fortnite, or Valorant, graphics-intensive single-player titles like The Last of Us or Hogwarts Legacy may stutter badly on only 8 GB of VRAM. If this is the case, I recommend setting the textures to medium details, and many games will do this automatically when you first run them. 12 GB is considered the minimum for no compromises 1440p gaming, and for 4K gaming, I recommend 16 GB of VRAM. But sadly, only the most expensive GPUs like the RTX 5080 and RTX 5090 come with this amount. Let's jump into performance. I've used publicly available data in Notebook Check's database to create a comparison of the RTX 50, RTX 40, and the RX 7000 series laptop GPUs, which cover most gaming laptops on the market right now. These numbers are average FPS at 1080p and 1440p at ultra settings across an average of about 30 games, depending on the GPU. Of course, in esports titles like CS2 or Warzone, and using more competitive settings, you'll see a ton more FPS. Well, in some hard-to-run single-player titles like Black Myth Wukong, FPS is going to be lower. Starting at the top and working our way down, we've got the RTX 5090 and RTX 5080. You also might still find some RTX 4090 laptops, but honestly, they're pretty much gone in 2025. The 5090 and 5080 are 4K capable GPUs and deliver impressive FPS at 1440p, insane FPS at 1080p as well. With 16 gigs or more of VRAM, these GPUs can play at any resolution, so feel free to get a 1440p or 4K screen if you want. And these are the GPUs that I would recommend if you want playable ray tracing at 1440p or 4K in all titles. In the mid-range of gaming laptops, we've got the RTX 5070 Ti, possibly even some RTX 4080 models as well. Both of these GPUs at their full power deliver impressive gaming performance of around 120 FPS average at 1080p and about 75 average FPS at 1440p. Both of those are in ultra settings. And with 12 GB of VRAM, both can offer a no-compromise 1440p gaming experience for rasterization, though for ray tracing, there might be a couple of titles like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, where 12 GB of VRAM just isn't enough at higher ultra settings. Moving down more into the mainstream gaming laptop GPUs in 2025, and you can see that our performance is still quite good with the RTX 5070 and RTX 5060, along with some RTX 4070 models that might be left. We've hit just about 60 average FPS at ultra details at 1440p and just under 100 average FPS for 1080p ultra settings. But we are now into 8 GB VRAM GPUs, so we might have to turn settings down to high, even medium in a couple of titles, even at 1080p. Though you still will be able to get a lot of titles to run at 1440p if you get an upgraded screen or you have an external monitor. For budget laptop GPUs, we've got the remaining RTX 4060 stock, along with some AMD Radeon last generation models that are still available, like the RX 7700S, 7600S as well. The RTX 4060 is the superior GPU here, along with upscaling. We can likely hit 60 FPS or higher at 1440p, along with over 81 average FPS at 1080p Ultra. The RTX 5050 8GB was just announced, and based on the specs, I expect it to perform a tiny bit faster than the RTX 4050, but have 8GB of VRAM. The RTX 4050, it's not terrible for raw performance, but with only 6 gigs of VRAM, I would definitely recommend spending just a bit more if you can. You'll also see power numbers on the benchmarks. That's the amount of total graphics power called TGP. I've listed the full power spec. Just note that if you do buy a laptop with a lower TGP, like you might find with an ultra thin and light gaming laptop, you will lose some performance. And remember, despite improved battery life in modern laptops, when you game, you always need to be plugged in because these GPUs will drain your battery in minutes at full power. The laptop CPU is the number 2 most important thing when you're buying the best gaming laptop in 2025, but in reality, it is a distant second to getting the right GPU. For gaming, we just want a CPU that's not going to bottleneck our graphics card. Now that happens less when we're maxing out graphics settings and resolution in a game like Elder Scrolls, and more when we turn down the settings to competitive to get a massive amount of FPS in competitive titles like CS2, Fortnite, and League of Legends. The faster the graphics card, the more this matters, but modern CPUs have gotten so much faster, and often you're going to be GPU limited. AMD and Intel make all the gaming CPUs in 2025 at the time of filming, but we are expecting Nvidia for the first time ever to introduce a mobile CPU in late 2025. We just don't have the details yet. Choosing the right CPU can seem impossible as both AMD and Intel have totally confusing naming. So what should you get? Well, mostly I would suggest that you just focus on getting the right GPU, then only think about the CPU if there's 2 similar models to choose between. The fastest laptop CPUs for gaming are AMD's X3D ones in the Ryzen 9 9955HX3D and the Ryzen 9 7945HX3D. But you're only going to find those CPUs in the most expensive high-end laptops, usually with an RTX 5090. For upper mid-range down to mainstream gaming laptops, I recommend a Ryzen 7 or 9 processor in the 9000 or 300 series, or just slightly below them in the 7000, 8000, and 200 series. For Intel CPUs, they can't really compete with the X3D CPUs, but their Core Ultra 9 or 7 200 series with an H or an HX are high-performance gaming CPUs, along with their i7 and i9 13th and 14th gen CPUs with an H or an HX at the end of the name. Intel's i5 and Ultra 5 CPUs in these ranges are also good for mainstream gaming, as are their Core Ultra 100 series CPUs with an H or HX. For budget gaming laptops, any Ryzen 5000, 6000, or Intel 12th gen CPU, it's fine as well. We'll go through examples in our specific product recommendations. How much RAM do you need in the best gaming laptop in 2025? Well, 16GB total RAM, it's still fine for the vast majority of titles. Recent testing has shown that some newer AAA titles can occasionally micro-stutter when they're limited to 16GB of system RAM. Now, it's not game-breaking, and this currently only affects a handful of new single-player AAA titles, but I would generally recommend 32GB of RAM for anything mid-range and higher if possible. But 32GB, it's still primarily reserved for like upper mid-range gaming laptops, and you will definitely pay a price premium for it. On the other end, I would absolutely skip anything with only 8GB of system RAM, even at the ultra budget level. While it's possible to upgrade the RAM in most laptops, they differ greatly in what type of RAM timings that they're going to accept, including XMP profiles. My advice, just get what you feel you need right now and don't worry about a future upgrade of RAM. So how big of an SSD do you need for your gaming laptop in 2025? Well, SSD pricing, it's actually at an all-time low. Many laptop makers are still going to charge you a significant upcharge for increasing that SSD storage. Now, most gaming laptops in 2025 will allow you to add at least one additional M.2 NVMe SSD drive, though you better check the laptop system specs before you buy if you do intend to add more storage. Now, adding an M.2 NVMe SSD drive is generally very easy to do once you open up the laptop, but depending on the laptop, opening it up can either be really easy or a total pain. My advice, just get the amount of storage you need right now, even if you have to pay a slight premium for it, and I would recommend at least 1TB in 2025 for mainstream and mid-range gaming laptops, hopefully 2TB for upper mid-range and higher end gaming laptops. And 500GB drives, they're really just for budget or cheap gaming laptops only. Of course, your laptop comes with a display, so let's talk about it because you've got a lot of options. Now, today the fastest gaming laptops come with high refresh rate panels, and some of them are now OLED, which has incredible contrast and HDR, but they're more expensive. High refresh rate 4K, 1440p, and 1080p panels typically start at around 120 to 144 Hz. You can think of that roughly as FPS maximum, and they can go up to overkill of 300 Hz and higher. Remember, you can always lower your gaming resolution to get more FPS on a high resolution screen like a 4K one, but you can't make a 1080p low resolution display suddenly output at 4K. And you can always plug in an external monitor as well. Of course, you do need to get a higher end GPU to get good FPS at 4K and a good mid-range one to do higher FPS at 1440p, so consider both the GPU power and the screen resolution when you're buying your laptop. Now, screen size is measured diagonally and typically comes in 13, 14, 15, and 16-inch variants, but there are 18-inch ones as well. The bigger the screen, the more the laptop is likely to weigh. Other features to include on your best gaming laptop include portability, the number and type of ports, as well as keyboards, aesthetics, and RGB. For portability, most high-performance gaming laptops are in the 5-pound or heavier range, and the thinner and lighter gaming laptops typically have lower power versions of the graphics card, which obviously means lower performance for your GPU, but also less weight. For ports, increasingly laptops are relying less on USB Type-A square ports, and they're adding fewer, but higher speed USB Type-C ports. You can always get a USB hub to connect several lower speed devices to a higher speed port. Most mid-range and higher end gaming laptops include quality mechanical keyboards with backlights or customizable RGB, while many budget laptops include lower quality gaming keyboards with membrane switches. All right, let's jump into our product recommendations for Best Gaming Laptop 2025, which are all listed down in the video description below. Now, of course, deals come and go and new models launch or they go out of stock, so I'm going to continue to update these links regularly with the best deals for gaming laptops in 2025. So check out those links for current pricing and availability in your region. Let's jump into the best RTX 5090 laptops in 2025. Now, what are you going to get for a 5090 laptop? Because they're going to run you anywhere from right now, anywhere from about $3,700 all the way up to what you see here, the creme de la creme, for about $5,100 US. You are going to get the most premium gaming laptop on the planet, basically. They're going to have ultra high-end CPUs on them. They're going to basically have all the upgraded features, including customizable RGB. They're going to come with upgraded keyboards. You're going to get a higher quality webcam to them. They're going to have really good high definition audio speakers, oftentimes up to 6 or even 8 audio speakers on there. Basically, you're getting the equivalent of a high-end gaming desktop in a laptop form. So let's jump through and let's start off at the top, because what I'm going to show you here is there's a massive gulf between the cheapest RTX 5090 laptop and something like this. The number one thing that's going to kind of separate them out, really two things. Number one, the CPU. This is going to come with the AMD Ryzen 9 9950H X3D. That's that X3D CPU I was talking about in the CPU section. These are the fastest gaming CPUs for mobile devices on the planet right now, but they did just come out, so they're ultra expensive right now, and there's only a handful of laptops with them. There is going to be an ASUS SCAR coming out. It's not out yet. This is the MSI Raider is the first one to have it. $5,100 for that. You also get 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, which is kind of insane for just a normal human being. Unless you do super high-end VFX or video editing, things that normal people, even just cutting a YouTube video, would never do, 64 gigs is going to be massive overkill, but obviously you want massive overkill when you're buying this kind of laptop. It's going to come with a great screen to it, 2 terabyte NVMe SSD as well, and tons of ports, including Thunderbolt ports. So you're going to get that 128 gigabit per second transfer time if you have like an external storage device to it. $5,100. Now this is the MSI Raider. This is over at New Ray right now, back ordered, but hopefully they'll come into stock pretty soon. Now some sites like Dell, HP, Lenovo, and others will allow you to custom configure your laptop. You don't just have to go off the shelf. So what I've got here is the Dell Alienware 18 Area 51 gaming laptop. This is an 18-inch, and I've configured this right now for $4,399. What do you get for that? You get an Ultra 9 275HX processor. That is one of the highest end Intel gaming processors out there, and I think probably just fine for the RTX 5090. I don't think you need the X3D CPU, especially since it's basically going to save you $600 for that, because this system is also right now coming with 64 gigabytes of DDR5, actually slightly faster RAM, 6400 mega transfers on the RAM, so 2 thumbs up there. 2 terabytes of NVMe storage. You can also do some other upgrades here if you want. If you want the 4K webcam, right now I think if you click on it, it gives you it for free. And then, of course, you can also get, instead of just the regular Alienware gaming keyboard with the RGB backlighting, you can do the Cherry MX Ultra Low Profile mechanical one. And I think that's like another $50. But you're already spending $4,400. What's another $50 to get the kind of ultimate keyboard out there? If you're a fan of the ASUS ROG Strix Scar laptops, here's a 16-inch RTX 5090 laptop. Very similar in specs to the other ones. There's actually not that much different in terms of the laptop specs themselves. Yes, these are all going to have like ultimate cooling. They're going to have ultimate performance. You're going to have the performance software where you're actually going to be able to tune it yourself. If you want to do that, you don't have to do that, but if you want to do it, for $4,299, again, 16-inch this time instead of 18-inch instead of the big Alienware Area 51, but relatively the same specs, 32 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte NVMe SSD, and an Ultra 9 275HX, along with a 240 hertz screen. Finally, here's just one I found on Insane Super Sale. I hope we do continue to see these prices at $3,600, but this is a pretty insane sale they've got going on right now. Although it does say MSRP, so maybe it'll stick around. But again, very similar specs to the other ones we're talking about. 32 gigabytes, slightly slower RAM, DDR5 5600. I don't think that's going to make a big difference for these CPUs. The Ultra 9 275HX, the RTX 5090, 1 terabyte NVMe storage. However, most of these omens, although check the specs, will typically come with an additional empty M.2 slot you can slap in up to a 4 terabyte, even, I know there's 8 terabyte drives that tend to be a little bit more expensive. You can slap an additional 1, 2, or 4 terabyte drive at a pretty reasonable price. Let's jump for the best RTX 5080 gaming laptops in 2025. And you're gonna see, in terms of the specs, in terms of the types of models out there, there is not a lot of difference between that and the 5090. It's mostly the GPU, because we're still dealing with relatively high-end gaming laptops here that are gonna cost you somewhere between $2,800 up to $3,200, even $3,400, almost as much as an RTX 5090 laptop, depending on what else you kind of kit into it. So looking at here at, this is at Newegg, again, this is the MSI Vector. So it's not the highest end MSI laptop, it's still very, very high end. MSI Vector 16-inch RTX 5080. Now this is gonna be, again, Ultra 9 275HX. You're gonna see that processor in a lot of the higher end gaming laptops, as Intel's one of their highest end, the 285HX is actually technically slightly faster, but honestly, probably in gaming, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, 2 terabyte NVMe SSD, and you're going to get the 240 hertz, I believe this is a 1440p gaming monitor on it. Moving over to the ASUS ROG Strix G16. Again, similar names, similar configurations to the 5090 laptops, because these are considered ultra high end. Once we get down to the 5070 Ti and below, you're going to see a lot more diversity out there, but right now you're seeing the creme de la creme out there. Now, this is a really good setup. I really like this one. $2,899. I think this is relatively balanced out there, although I would love to see a 2 terabyte NVMe SSD ASUS, but at 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, most people can probably do just fine with that. 32 gigs of system RAM, Core Ultra 9 275HX, 240 hertz, 1440p screen on it, so 2 thumbs up there. These things look amazing. The keyboard, I love the look and feel of them, and tons of ports. Right now, HP is just killing it with the sale. Hopefully the sale continues, or hopefully these pricing continues for HP. Now, this is direct from HP's website. Remember, everything's linked down in the video description, so check those links out. $2,749, so $2,750. Another good configuration, right? So this is going to be with a Ryzen AI9 HX375. Jason, these crazy CPU names, I know, but that is one of AMD's highest end non-X3D gaming CPUs out there. So 2 thumbs up. Really, really good CPU with the RTX 5080, which has 16 gigs of VRAM, 32 gigs of DDR5 5600 RAM, good speed for that, and then a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. It's got the keyboard backlights on it. It's got the great sound on it. It's got a good monitor as well. Jumping over the best gaming laptop 2025 in the mid-range. So these are RTX 5070 Ti gaming laptops. You can find some RTX 4080s out there still right now, but honestly, they're about the same price, maybe even a little bit more expensive for kind of weaker configurations, and they're going away. And on top of that, this is a little bit more power efficient. So let's talk about the RTX 5070 Ti gaming laptops. Let's start off with Lenovo, because you'll probably notice we haven't talked about Lenovo yet. they, for whatever reason, have seemed to be a little slower to get out their 5080 and 5090 laptops. So they're just not really available right now. But I wanted to highlight, because Lenovo is a very popular brand out there, especially with their Legion Pro gaming laptops. This is the Legion Pro 7i. So the I means Intel. That means it's got a Core Ultra 9 275HX, great gaming CPU, and it has an OLED 1440p OLED 240 hertz gaming display on it as well, which is really, really nice. I don't know why the higher end laptops don't have OLED as often. I'm guessing because OLED uses more power, and those laptops are already have tons of power in their CPUs and their GPUs. And when we come down to something like the 5070 Ti at 115 watts, it gives you a little bit more room in the power profile. So that's good. 32 gigs of DDR5 system RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. It's got all the goodies that you typically get with Lenovo, and including that really nice construction to it, not a lot of flexion on it in terms of the monitor. The keyboard's nice and solid as well, and you get that great backlight for $22.99. Another offering here from ASUS ROG Strix G16. Again, this is their higher end laptop packaging basically for the RTX 5070 Ti. This is going to be with a Ryzen 9955HX, but not the X3D version of it. Still a phenomenal gaming CPU out there. 32 gigs of system RAM, 1 terabyte NVMe SSD, for $22.99 if you want to go ASUS instead. It is nice. We are starting to see some of the RTX 5070 Ti laptops dip under $2,000. I like this configuration by Acer. Acer tends to be a little bit more of a value brand than like Lenovo Legion or the HP Omen ones and things like that. So this is a good offering. $1,899. You get, again, same Core Ultra 9 CPU. It's a 275HX. And you get 1 terabyte NVMe SSD storage along with 32 gigs, but you also get a 240 hertz OLED display on this thing. I think this is a great deal. Now, this sale could go away at any time, so if it does, we'll find another similar OLED one to put in here. But to me, comparing all these three together, this is probably the one that I would pick up today. Let's jump to the best gaming laptop 2025 in the mainstream. So these are going to be like RTX 5070 laptops, the best RTX 5060 laptops, and RTX 4070 laptops, if you can still find the 4070. The 4070, 5060, roughly the same performance to them. And all of these GPUs that we're talking about still have 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Now, they don't have 12, so some games at 1440p, you're going to have to turn down the settings, particularly the textures, to medium in order to be able to play them. Things like The Last of Us Part 1, you're not going to be able to play at ultra details. But especially if you're into FPS shooters or competitive titles where you're going to turn those down to competitive settings anyway, and you're just going to pump tons of frames, these are going to be really, really good gaming laptops for you. And on most single player titles, again, just turn those textures down a little bit, you should be okay. The other thing we're going to get here, we're going to get more value oriented chassis as we come down out of the high end. So for instance, we got the ASUS TUF Gaming A16. This is a value chassis that ASUS has made for a while. It's not the ASUS ROG Strix, it's the TUF Gaming. A little bit more plastic to it, a little less metal, a little bit more flexion to it, a little bit more flexion to the keyboard on it, less RGB, kind of some less customization options, but still a very, very good chassis for this. And this is going to have the Ryzen 9, I believe this is the 270. So not a super high-end gaming CPU, but absolutely serviceable for an RTX 5070, 32 gigs of RAM, and 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. But I will say, right now, the 5070 laptops, just like the 4070 laptops in their first year, they seem to be slightly overpriced for the performance level because we're almost at 5070 Ti pricing here. And the 5070 is not that much faster than the 4070 or the 5060. Speaking of the RTX 4070, you can still pick up a couple of these. Like there's the MSI Katana. Now this is a pretty good laptop again. More kind of mainstream. I don't want to say budget oriented just yet because you do get the RGB on the keycaps. It does still have pretty good construction to it. The keyboard still has pretty good quality to it, but we are coming down here in terms of price. Now we're at $1,289. Let's say like $400 price jump there. And you're getting similar-ish performance that we just saw, but we are only getting 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM now. We're no longer getting 32 gigs here. 1 terabyte NVMe SSD on it as well. Again, pretty good laptop for about $1,300. This is a really good deal that I just found. This is the HP Victus. Now, the Victus is HP's more value-focused, kind of mid-range to more budget and gaming laptop chassis out there. But I will say in reviews in previous years, these things have held up really well, even against some of these slightly higher end models, not the ultra high end, obviously, but these slightly higher end models out there. And this is a pretty good setup for $1,099. This is actually really good for 5060s right now. And this pricing is selling out, as you can see. There's only 2 left right now as I do this. Hopefully we'll get more in stock. We're getting 16 gigs of system RAM, and we're getting an i7-13620H. That's a 13th gen Intel, slightly older CPU, perfectly adequate for the RTX 5060 though, still very, very fast, and a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. Let's jump into the best budget gaming laptop in 2025. And of course, this is like the best gaming laptops under $1,000 in 2025. $1,000 really the cutoff price. Maybe you spend $50 more, $50 less here, but we're looking for essentially 3 different GPUs in our gaming laptop here. Number 1 is the RTX 4060. That's going to be the fastest out there with 8 gigabytes of VRAM. Possibly some Radeon RX 7700S or 7600S. Those are going to be kind of more in the middle. And then bringing up the rear is going to be the RTX 5050, which was just announced yesterday, but there's already models available today on it. But it does have 8 gigabytes of VRAM, even though it performs like the 4050. It's got 2 extra gigabytes of VRAM. That really is going to make all the difference. And I would definitely pay a little bit more of a price premium and not get the 4050. Let's start off with this one. This is the MSI Thin. This is a thin gaming laptop, 2 thumbs up. It's got a lower power CPU on it, which is the Ryzen 5 7535HS. Perfectly adequate though for what we're doing here. And then it's got the RTX 4060 along with 16 gigabytes. Now this is DDR4 RAM out there. It's not going to make any real difference between DDR4 and DDR5 at this CPU performance level. And then we've got 512 gigabytes NVMe SSD for about $1,000. This is a decent enough model. It's got a full HD, in other words, a 1080p screen on it. It's 144 hertz. It is IPS, so that's really, really nice. It's going to have a little bit more flexion to it. I do see the keycaps light up on it. That's pretty nice as well. Not a bad model for about $1,000. Acer Nitro is another value-oriented model that you're going to see out there as well. We often recommend these do tend to hold up pretty well for the price point. Obviously, you're not going to get all the high-end features, but again, they've got the backlit keycaps. Construction on them tends to be pretty good. They tend to have quite a few ports, especially USB type A ports, which I really appreciate. $949. Now this one's back ordered, but it's coming back in stock in a couple of days. Slightly better processor. It's got the Ryzen 7 8845HS. Still a thin and light, lower power processor, but it's got a couple more cores to it with the RTX 4060, 16 gigs of DDR5 RAM. Again, no difference between that and DDR4 really. And a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. This is the one that I would pick up, just more storage basically. Now RTX 5050 laptops have just been introduced. HP just introduced theirs here, so I want to show you this one. $949. To me, I would go with the 4060. It's a faster GPU, but the 4060 at some point, they're going to stop making them, or they have stopped making them. So they're going to run out at some point. So the 5050 is going to be more the budget offering here. It's not that much slower, but it comes with an Ultra 5 225H Intel CPU. Again, perfectly adequate CPU, but it's not a barn burner. 16 gigs of DDR5, 5600 RAM to it, 2 thumbs up, and 512 gigs of NVMe SSD space. Let's some of the best cheap gaming laptops in 2025. Now, if you can afford any of the laptops even the budget category, they're going to be demonstrably better than these. However, I know not everybody's got that amount of money, so let me give you some options. Anywhere from possibly $700 on like a really, really good sale up to like $850 is what I would be looking to spend here. What are we going to get for that? We're going to get the RTX 4050 laptop GPU with 6 gigabytes of VRAM. You could also consider maybe the RTX 3060, 6 gigabyte as well. The performance isn't that far off. So I would look for either of those two, as well as maybe some of those discounted Radeon GPUs that I mentioned in the budget category. So let's go through this one. This is the Acer Nitro 5. Again, Acer's got the Nitro is a great budget lineup. You're often going to find these as some of the cheapest gaming laptops out there. It's got an i7-13620H, which is surprising for such a cheap laptop. That's a really good CPU here. 16 gigs of system RAM with it, 512 gigabytes of NVMe SSD storage, which is probably as much as you're going to get at this budget level. 144 hertz IPS full HD screen, another 1080p screen. This one comes with a controller for some reason, Acer Nitro controller. Hey, that's cool, I guess. $819. Again, that's typically what you're going to pay. I was able to find this insane deal over at Walmart. Now, Walmart is a great place to shop for like especially discounted budget and mainstream laptops, but also the really, really good cheap deals. I will say these cheap deals, they kind of come in, they're there for a day or two, and then they're gone. So check those links down in the video description. I will continue to dig these up. This is a great one. This is the HP Victus. Again, this is a good chassis by HP. This is in their budget and their mainstream lineup out there. And surprisingly pretty good CPU, 13th gen Intel i5-13420H with an RTX 4050 6GB GPU, 16 gigs. This is DDR4. We don't really care about that. That's fine. And 512 gigs of NVMe SSD space. Pretty good. Again, it's full HD, 144 hertz, high refresh rate monitor on it. For $699, if you wanted a cheap laptop, if this is there, you should get this. Remember, everything is linked down in the video description. Check out those links for the current best deals on gaming laptops in 2025. We'll continue to update them as things changes. If you got value out of this video, please give it a like. It makes a huge difference channel, especially this guy right here who is leaving. He's leaving me. Mr. Bear, why are you leaving? Anyway, give the video a like, check out the links, and we'll catch you on the next one.